Welcome back to Humbled Highs. I'm your host, Andrew. So I hope you guys have been liking the episodes so far. I've been getting a lot of good feedback. And first of all, if you guys would do me a favor, tell your friends, tell your family, take 1 minute out of your time and repost this so that way this audience can grow. Not to grow my audience, because honestly, I don't care. But to grow the name of God, to grow in people's hearts what God can do for your life. And at no point in time am I trying to glorify this lifestyle, but anytime I tell my story, people always tell me the same thing. That should be a book. That should be a movie. And I got a lot of feedback from my friends to say, well, you could start a podcast. And so that's where we're at. So this episode 3, what's a stash house? My Batcave. So I'm doing 50 pounds a week and business is going really good. But at the same time, I've got cops outside my house, right? In periods of time, I had 2 cops at the same time. There was always this unmarked car down at the far end of the street. And I just knew he was watching me. And sometimes there'd be a marked car on my street right in front of my house. And let me tell you, if a cop can see you, they've got listening devices. And they can point it at your house and they can hear what you're saying inside the house. This made me feel very, very paranoid. I mean, it was like I was carrying chainmail on me. Like, you ever go to the dentist and they put that lead coat on you to keep the x-rays from going through your body? That's what I felt like all the time. Anxiety and stress. And I did not like it. You know, I was dealing out of my house. Back in my back master bedroom, I had a closet. I took out the handle and I put in a deadbolt. And I had the door shored up so you couldn't stick anything, jimmy the door open with like a crowbar. It was a solid, wood door, not like in somebody's like apartment where you could just punch through the door. But I had cops sitting outside and one would just seem to stay there like all day long. And I was like a crackhead looking out the window all the time, just extremely paranoid. And I knew that they were monitoring me. And so I figured I needed to do something to get the attention away from my house. And of course, my son was living with me too. And we had money in the house and we had drugs in the house. It wasn't an ideal situation as a parent and a father. Not to say I was even a qualified parent, but I mean, my son was being fed and being educated and, was learning the street smart stuff. Which he's still really good street smarts. He's a good man. He's a good man. But at the time, I was using burner phones, and I'm not going to tell y'all how to get a burner phone, but I watch a lot of true crime stories, and it's like murderers, they go out there and they think they can go get a burner phone and then go do it at Walmart and pay with their debit card. I'm like, that's counterintuitive of getting the burner phone. When you get it, it can't be in your name. You can't buy it. You got to buy it with cash. So I had not 1, but 2 burner phones, and I had my regular cell phone. And all my customers, I would tell them in person, I'd say, this is the burner phone number, and you're only to call me Batman. I was into comic books as a kid. And I always thought that dual identity, Bruce Wayne and Batman, was cool. And, I had like a normal life where nobody knew I was a drug dealer. And then there was the Batman. So I tell my customers, if you call me anything, if you call me Andrew, then I'm going to hang up the phone. I'm going to ditch that phone. I'm going to call you on another burner phone. And by the way, you're going to owe me for the cost of that burner phone. It happened a couple times, but nobody really wants to just give me $50 to do that, because it wasn't exactly easy to go get a burner phone in a place that had no cameras and all this and that. So I got these cops monitoring my house, and I got to figure a way to get this stuff out and move it into a different location. So my finance guy, who's got all the real estate, I call him up and I'm like, man, I've got a lot of heat on me, bro. I need to get this stuff out of here. I said, you got another house? And he's like, yeah, I got a house in North Nashville and somebody just moved out. He gives me the address. He says, go take a look at it and see if it's going to work for you. So boom, it's only like 15 minutes from my house in Madison. And I didn't have to get on the interstate. I was on a nice 2-lane road, perfect for driving back and forth to. Got to the house. It's like a 1-level ranch style house, 3-bedroom. And if you ever see these houses that's got a roof on it where there's a little tiny window, most of the time you think that's just an attic and it's a fake window. But in this house, there was a little tiny staircase that went up into this little room. This room had like a barn kind of pitched roof. It was only like 6.5 feet tall. It was like 15 feet long, about 12 feet wide, finished floors, finished ceilings, everything. I was like, this is perfect, right? So I called him up and I said, yes, this will be perfect. But there was no electricity and nothing on at the house. And so there came in another problem, like same with the burner situation. I'm not going to get a house that I'm going to keep my drugs at. That's the stash house. I'm not going to get a stash house and then put the electricity in my name, right? So what I had to do was elicit a girl that I knew. She just happened to be a stripper that I knew, and I was, dealing pot to her, so I was giving her a really good deal. And so I asked her, I said, hey, I've got this house and I'd like you to go down to Nashville and put the electricity in your name. And she didn't even ask no questions. She said, well, sure. And I said, I need you to go to Comcast and put the cable in your name, right? She said, sure, no problem. I don't mind doing that. So couple of days goes by, I of course gave her the cash every month, and she would have to go physically down there and pay the bills. I didn't want her to come to the house for any means. I said, do not come to this house. This house has nothing to do with you. It's just going to be the electricity and the cable is going to be in your name. So, and she was a stripper, so I had to pay a lot of money, of course, because they don't have really good credit, so I had to pay a lot of money in order to get the cable on. And so we got the cable, we got the electric going in the stash house, and I'm Batman, so I decided to call it the Batcave. I thought that was pretty cool. The only people that were allowed to go there was my son, and I brought Amber, my wife, there one time. But I wanted to keep it, super secret, super secure. So I wanted to convert this upstairs room into the centralized location that I kept all my pot at. And so there was a little tiny staircase that led up to this attic space, right? And it's alongside a long wall, right? And inside this house, the old tenants had left some stuff behind, and they had left this bookshelf, this like 6 foot tall, 12 foot long bookshelf at this house. And I'm just looking, thinking, and I'm like, what if we make this bookshelf a fake wall, right? And so I called P, and he had this guy that knew construction and did remodeling and stuff, and was a customer and had been a loyal guy, and a small time dealer. And I said, can I use this guy to do some building for me? He's like, sure. So I met him there the next day, and I said, listen, I want to take this bookshelf, and I want you to make it look like there's no door behind it, right? We're going to hide that door completely that leads up to the attic. And I said, if you hinge it with backside of the hinges, and then on the far side, close to where the door is leading up to the attic, you're going to put a little roller, a little caster, that when I lift the cabinet, when I lift this bookshelf up, the caster will drop down, and I can pull this whole cabinet, this bookshelf, all the way out, and then you'll see the door. And he's like, I think I can do that. I was like, cool. So we worked out a price, and he had it done. I also told him, I said, I want this door, I want you to take out the lock mechanism. I want you to take out the handle and just make a really secure deadbolt. And also want you to shore up the door really good to where nobody can just kick it in and nobody can stick a crowbar in there. And he's like, what are you going to do here? I'm like, don't worry about it. Just if you can do that, that'd be great. And the guy did it in like 2 or 3 days. So it turned out like perfect, right? So I installed, the reason why I had cable is that I wanted to monitor this house because I wasn't going to live there. So I installed motion sensor cameras. As soon as you move that bookcase out of the way, there would be a camera mounted up at the top on the inside of this door, faced right to your face, right? Mounted a camera there. Then when you open that door up with the deadbolt, you go up a flight of stairs, and there was an immediate right turn. Then went another little flight of stairs, and right there I had another camera. So if you open the door and busted that camera, okay, and then there's another camera right inside in the staircase, and then up inside the attic space that was finished, there was another camera that looked over all my 50 pounds. I had them in those plastic shelving, the five level shelving. So I had 50 jars in there, the 2.5 gallon glass jars that I kept everything in, and I could watch over my stuff because I had cable service and a cable modem there. So that's why I had cable service there. So now I've still got cops sitting outside my house, right? So I can't just transport 50 jars from my house across to North Nashville. That's not very easy to do. But I also paid attention when those cops were there, and I knew there's a shift change, 6 o'clock, and that cop in the unmarked car would leave. So here's what we did. Went and got a U-Haul truck, rented a U-Haul truck, parked it about a mile away at a Kmart right there in Madison. And then me and my son, we gathered up all the equipment, all the jars, all the things I needed, my scales and stuff to measure stuff out. I had vacuum sealer bags and all that. We put everything, we pre-staged it in my garage. And then we waited until the cop left. I made sure, it was just a day shift, I guess. They didn't really sit out there at nighttime. And so when the cop left, it was like, me and my son were like, okay, this is what we're going to do it. I'm going to go get the truck. I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to back the truck up right to the garage. You're going to be waiting at the garage. As soon as I get there, roll the garage door up, roll the truck up, and we're going to put everything in the back. And that's exactly how it worked. Put 50 glass jars in the back of this U-Haul. And it was as fast as a NASCAR pit stop, y'all. I mean, it was like we'd done it 1,000 times. But when the pressure's on, some people perform and some people cave. My son and I, we perform under pressure. We got all that stuff in the U-Haul truck, and boom, he and I headed over to the Batcave, the stash house. And so let me just pause right there. So there's the difference in street terms. You've got trap house, grow house, and stash house. All right, so the grow house, you already know that's a place where you grow or you produce your drugs. A meth lab would be a grow house, or the same thing. A trap house is where you keep your drugs but also deal drugs out of it at the same time. And a stash house is as a fake residence that you use to store your drugs. Okay, so that's my Batcave, right? So my son and I, Austin, we headed on over to the Batcave. The power's on, and we had furnished the house with lights and furniture to make it look real, with rugs, just in case somebody walked up and looked in the window. It looked like, yeah, somebody's here. They're just not here today, right? I didn't want a completely dark, empty house all the time. That raises suspicions. But this house was secluded. It didn't have neighbors within view, so it was not a pressured situation. Once we got to the house, we just unloaded everything, brought it upstairs, and I think this was the first time my son had been there. And I was like, when we pulled up, I was like, see that little window up there? I was like, that's where everything's going to go. He's like, really? And everything was, the bookshelf, it's a huge bookshelf. I had books on it too. I mean, obviously you're not just going to have an empty bookshelf. You need to have some weight on it. And I go over to the one end, lift it up just a little bit. The wheel comes out. I roll this big cabinet away, the bookshelf. There's the door. There's the camera pointed at you. My phone alerts that the motion sensor went off. And it's like technology. It was really like a Batman situation. It was pretty cool. Like you ever see, you pull the book down and then the door opens up and then there's the Batcave. Kind of the same kind of principle. And we put everything up in the Batcave, upstairs, and locked it all up, and that was that. So my procedures weren't people coming over to my house anymore. I felt really secure. I was having to take more risk at this time. So my customers would call me. I would leave my house, drive over to the Batcave, prepare what they needed, 5-10 pounds, and then I'd go take it to where I felt comfortable in Madison, like at restaurants. Now, doing a drug deal out in public, it's not a really smart idea. So I came up with this idea. I was like, I will leave the drugs in I would get like a Bath and Body Works or Yankee Candle bag or something like that. And I would put them in, vacuum sealed bags makes a pound look pretty small. And so I'd put them in, I'd even put some, fake products, some t-shirts or something in there. Then I would go inside the business. I'd leave my car unlocked, and then my customers would just pull up to my car, open the back seat, grab their product, drop the money, lock the doors, and leave. And that's how I did my distribution from that point forward. It worked out really well for a while, and the cops still monitor my house, but we no longer had any business going on at my house, and, you ask yourself, like, how was I able to get away with all that? Statistically, and you can look up you can Google this, but drug dealers, 90% of them, they don't make more than $10,000 before they're either incarcerated or they're shot. Right? I had all this money and all this drugs in my house, and I'm bringing in customers. Some of them I didn't even know. Some of them I picked up at the strip clubs as customers. I had a guy that used to spray cologne on you in the bathrooms, and he became one of my customers, and one of his sons. I had people I didn't really know, and it's crazy why I didn't have somebody just run up on me in the middle of the night and shoot me in the head just to take all that money. But God he's all knowing, and he knows the end of the story from the beginning. It says that God knew your name before you were born. Before the beginning of time, he knew you and he called you. It's like if you knew the end of a football game, you could place the bet on the winner, and it doesn't change the outcome of the game. See, God already knew that I would accept his free gift of salvation. And he knew that I would be doing ministry and talking to students and talking to adults. And so he gave me what's called mercy. And mercy is one of those words that Christians use that I really don't think a lot of them know what it means. And terms like grace and blessings. Blessing, I can't stand it when I see somebody with a car and they got that as their front license plate, blessed. Or they got it on the a sticker on the back of their car, blessed. Most people wouldn't know a blessing if it hit them in the face. So I'm going to take a second here and I'm going to define what grace, mercy, and blessings mean. Okay, so grace is God giving you what you don't deserve. And so ask yourself, what do I deserve? You don't deserve nothing. I don't deserve nothing. If you've got breath in your lungs, if you woke up this morning, that is grace. That is a gift from God. Everything is of grace. And people that take advantage and think that they deserve something, that they're not living a grace-filled life, right? They've been shown grace, but they're not even recognizing it. Mercy is God not giving you what you do deserve. What did I deserve? I deserve to get shot in the head for being a dumb drug dealer. I deserve to get robbed, and I deserve to be in prison, right? There's another Andrew in an alternate universe that never chose to accept God. And that Andrew is rotting in prison for 25 to life. I want to wake up every morning. I try to wake up every morning reminded of the mercy that God showed me and thinking like, I deserve to be in prison, you know. And, you know, I just started doing ministry in jail, and I can hook up with those guys. And some of those guys, they're being punished, but God has shown them mercy because they're out of the danger zone of being in the streets with guns, and God has to sit them down and show them that there's another life. And that means that God has still called those guys to be part of his family. And what's blessings? It does not mean material possessions. It doesn't mean a big house. Blessings are the combination of God's grace and God's mercy. So I don't want to use that term. I'm blessed and highly favored, brother, because it's just one of those terms that are thrown around that don't have a whole lot of meaning when you say them too much. But to me, it means something, because the breath I have in my lungs and the freedom that I have makes me blessed. I don't need to have this house, my cars, my wife, my possessions, my Jordans, to feel like I'm blessed. That's not blessings, okay? God showed me mercy because he knew the end of the story. He knew where I'd be at today. If I had not decided to accept his salvation, if I had decided, I don't want to do nothing with you, God, I want to be the Lord of my own life, he would not have shown me mercy because he knew the end of the story. Why would he bet on a team that was going to lose? No, he's not going to show mercy for that because he already knows who's going to choose to accept him or not. And he knows that in your life too. And thankfully, we have this thing called free will. And free will allows us to be the Lord of our own life. Free will allows us to choose love because it's not love without a choice. So today, I want you to choose to accept God's love for you. He loves you more than anybody could ever love you. He loved you and chose you before the creation of the world, and he wants to show you grace and mercy. And when you give your life to him, when you show him that serving him is top priority in your life, and growing in character and becoming like Jesus is top priority to your life, he gives you favor. And I just wake up thinking, I don't deserve this. There's people in prison that did the same thing that I did, and they're having a tough life. You know, they might be in there getting raped. They might be in there getting beat up, and I wouldn't have made it because I wasn't going to be raped by nobody. I probably would have got killed the first time Leroy tried to rape me, because I'm not going to go that route. I'm not going to get it. They say 5 years it's accepted, 10 years it's expected to be involved in, you know, prison relationships. And I heard that from a prisoner who had been in there for 5 years. So I looked at him a little crazy. But grace, mercy, and blessings, I hope I've redefined them for you, and I hope I'm not glorifying my life. But this is the story of Batman, the Batcave, and what's a stash house. Give me feedback. Please share this podcast on your social media platforms. I love you guys. Have a great day.